Chapter 121. Terrifying Aura. These two idiots. Seeing this scene, the leader of the Mad Saber sect swore. At this moment, a streak of resplendent sword chi suddenly lit up the sky. Like a shooting star, it descended on Lin Beimo and Huang Hongcheng. Whoosh! The streak of sword chi instantly destroyed them. Humph! Who would have thought that my, Yi Zan's, words would be taken lightly in Yang City? Yi Zan's voice rang out again. Hearing this, everyone shook in their boots and drew deep breaths. Yi Zan. That person just now was Yi Zan. Soon enough, everyone's shock transformed into fanaticism. Yi Zan was a legend in the Great Qian dynasty. His talent and strength had made him invincible here, and he was idolized by countless young cultivators. Everyone revealed excited expressions. They had not expected to encounter the famed Yi Zan. Although Yi Zan did physically appear, it did not put a damper on their excitement. Oh my god, I'm actually staying in the same city as the #1 expert of the Great Qian dynasty. This is such a blessing. Numerous young cultivators were starstruck, and yearned to see him in action. They knew very well that this was not impossible either. After all, once the Moon Demon Mystic Realm opened, Yi Zan would appear. Not only were the young cultivators excited, the more powerful experts were also shocked, as they could better comprehend the power of the attack that Yi Zan unleashed. To them, even if everyone in the city combined forces, they would not be able to resist that one attack. In other words, if Yi Zan wanted to, he could destroy the entire city with a single sword strike. Once Yi Zan killed those two 7th level Purple Spirit Realm experts, the originally chaotic Yang City ushered in a time of peace. All of the cultivators who visited or stayed in the city did not dare to act recklessly. Even the crime rate among ordinary citizens fell drastically as bandits silently chose to behave themselves. Even if a cultivator encountered a mortal enemy, they bottled up their anger and instead chose to live peacefully in Yang City. There was nothing they could do. Throughout the entire Great Qian dynasty, who did not know Yi Zan's name? This big shot was a terrifying existence who had destroyed a top-ranked sect by himself. Who would dare to provoke him? You are quite famous. Seeing this, Lin Qing looked at Yi Zan with a smile. Moreover, Lin Qing could see the adoring gazes of the young cultivators, especially the female cultivators. Thinking this, Lin Qing could not help but laugh. Even if the current king of the Great Qian dynasty appeared here, he might still be eclipsed by Yi Zan. Seeing this, Yi Zan revealed a helpless expression. By now, he had naturally heard the many stories and versions passed around in the cultivation world about his achievements. The degree of exaggeration was so great that even he could not help but blush. Yu and Li Qingyan chuckled. They had never seen their teacher in such an awkward situation. Ahem. Yi Zan quickly coughed and calmed himself down, though his face was still slightly red. He then turned his gaze toward Li Qingyan. You should continue to cultivate. By the way, come to my room tonight. I have something good prepared for you. As soon as he finished speaking, Lin Qingyan's face froze and became as red as an apple. Seeing this, Yi Zan suddenly realized that something was not right with what he had said. In reality, he just wanted to simply perform spiritual power infusion on Li Qingyan. After all, it had been a month since he last did so the time was ripe to reap more system rewards. Ahem, I will help you consolidate your cultivation, Yi Zan said with a thick face. Okay. Li Qingyan's small hands gripped the corner of her clothes tightly. When night fell, Li Qingyan went over to Yi Zan's room. Teacher. Li Qingyan gently knocked on the door. Come in, Yi Zan replied. Then, Li Qingyan pushed open the door and walked in. Following Yi Zan's instructions, she sat down cross-legged on the mat. Moments later, Yi Zan waved his hand and set up an array formation to conceal his aura. Yi Zan's spiritual power surged out and slowly flowed into Li Qingyan's dantian, helping the latter condense her purple mansion. The purple spirit realm was when a cultivator condensed and forged their purple mansion in their dantian. The gap between each minor realm was significant, and even genius cultivators might find it difficult to bridge the gap between minor realms. As Yi Zan infused his spiritual power into Li Qingyan, she began to break through. Previously, Li Qingyan had become an alchemist with Yi Zan's help. At the same time, she had activated her dual spirit physique, and her innate bone value had been greatly strengthened. Therefore, Li Qingyan was already able to bear more of Yi Zan's spiritual power. 2nd level Purple Spirit Realm. 3rd level Purple Spirit Realm. 4th level Purple Spirit Realm. It was not until Li Qingyan reached the 9th level of the Purple Spirit Realm that Yi Zan put a halt to the spiritual power infusion process. Although Li Qingyan's innate bone values and the strength of her physical body had been greatly improved, it was still limited. If he forcefully helped her break through to the core formation realm, it was very likely that her cultivation foundation would be damaged. Yi Zan cared about his two disciples very much. Naturally, he had to ensure that their future path of cultivation was smooth. Ding. As the host has infused 150 days worth of cultivation to his disciple, the host has received a randomized 56x critical reward. Congratulations. The house has obtained 8,400 days worth of cultivation. As the system's notification rang out, Yi Zan's body suddenly shook. The aura around his body became even more majestic and profound. His body underwent a qualitative change. It was like a tide, endless, and also like the sky, vast and boundless. Every cell in Yi Zan's body was like a heart, pumping with vigor. Every beat caused the energy each cell contained to fluctuate slightly. In an instant, an incomparably terrifying aura instantly swept through Yang City, bypassing the array formation Yi Zan had set up. What is this? What on earth is going on? Why does it feel like I'm being suppressed? It's as if there's an invisible force strangling my neck. Although this boundless aura only appeared for a moment before disappearing, the cultivators in Yang City knew very well that this was not their illusion. Even at this moment, they could still recall the suffocating feeling. Although it was only for a moment, it was as if they had walked through the gates of hell. Chapter 122. Unity Realm Breakthrough. Could it be him? The leader of the Mad Saber sect wiped the sweat off his forehead and looked in the direction of the inn where Yi Zan was staying with a shocked expression. He gulped. Even he could not describe the vast power that enveloped him just now. He had cultivated for dozens of years, but had never felt such a terrifying aura. It felt like he had been standing in the presence of an exalted immortal. In all of Yang City, only he is capable of this. In that moment, he was once again filled with fear and reverence toward Yi Zan. Other than the core formation realm cultivators, everyone else was confused. They did not know what had happened at all, though they all felt as if they had just escaped death. It was a terrifying feeling. Teacher. Li Qingyan noticed the change in her teacher's aura. The aura that her teacher had emitted previously had indeed shocked her. However, just a moment ago, the aura transformed into something that made her body tremble, and her soul seemed to be gripped by a sense of primal fear. It was as if her teacher had suddenly become an extremely terrifying existence. In that moment, every cell in her body had screamed for her to run. Qingyan, it's okay. Yi Zan smiled, and then gently patted Li Qingyan's head. Teacher, Elder Yi Zan, did anything unusual happen? Suddenly, a few nervous voices could be heard outside the door. These were the voices of Yu and Lin Qing. Other than that, Wan Shanhai and the others were also beside them. Nothing worth worrying about, Yi Zan replied. Hearing this, Yu could not help but heave a sigh of relief. At the same time, she secretly guessed, could it be the teacher broke through again? Wasn't his talent a little too monstrous? However, Lin Qing and Wan Shanhai were not calm. As top-notch core formation realm experts, they could clearly sense the terror of that aura. It was a power that made even their souls tremble. Has this fellow broken through again? The two of them looked at each other and revealed bitter smiles. If this fellow, who was a peak core formation realm expert, had really broken through, that could only mean one thing. Unity Realm. He had broken through to the Unity Realm at the age of 20. If it had not happened right next to them, they would have found this impossible to believe. When he thought of this, Wan Shanhai's heart was filled with bitterness. Comparison really was a brutal thing. He had cultivated for decades, yet he was still stuck at the true core realm. However, if others were to learn of Wan Shanhai's thoughts, they would also be speechless. What was there to be envious of? Not everyone could be like Yi Zan. Did he really think that this world was full of monsters like him? That guy was an anomaly, okay. With this guy's monstrous talent, even if this world really was full of monstrous geniuses, he would still be one of the best. Lin Qing's thoughts were almost the same as Wan Shanhai's, but she felt even more uncomfortable. She did not expect that, in less than a year, the gap between her and Yi Zan would have grown to this extent, like an impassable ravine. Such a talented person was destined to go beyond the Great Qian dynasty, or even the Nanzhou region, and head out into the Tian Yuan continent. As for herself, she might have to stay in the Great Qian dynasty for the rest of her life. Then, Lin Qing returned to her room and stared at the moon from the window, dazed. After sending off Wan Shanhai and Lin Qing, Yi Zan allowed Li Qingyan to return to her room to familiarize herself with her new cultivation level. Only when he was the only one left in the room did Yi Zan calm down and examine the surging power within his dantian. Thanks to the spiritual power infusion, he had obtained a total of 8,400 days worth of cultivation. That was close to 24 years worth of cultivation. However, he had not just reached the first level of the Unity Realm, but was now also a half level away from reaching the second level of the Unity Realm. Yi Zan could sense that his body had undergone an earth-shaking transformation. Every cell in his body was filled with rich, pulsating vitality. His body had been reforged, and his power had reached new heights. As long as he waved his hand slightly, he could easily insta-kill his previous self. It was true that he did have the strength of a first-level Unity Realm expert before, but it was only the most ordinary kind of attack. If he were to face the full-force attack of a first-level Unity Realm expert, even he might not be able to withstand it. Originally, if a cultivator wanted to reach the Unity Realm, they would have to go through the dangerous process of destroying and regenerating their cells. However, thanks to the system, Yi Zan conveniently skipped this process. With the help of the system, this breakthrough came naturally. There was no pain, and he reached the first level of the Unity Realm in an instant. The feeling of having a cheat code is really awesome. Thinking this, Yi Zan smiled. He clenched his hand slightly, and the space around his hand began to twist visibly. It is said that there are hundreds of billions of cultivators in the entire Nanzhou region, and that there are many genius cultivators among them. I hope to meet them in the Moon Demon Mystic Realm. Don't let me down. Yi Zan looked at the moon as he muttered to himself. Compared to the resources he might find in the Moon Demon Mystic Realm, he was more concerned about taking in disciples. Soon, a few days passed. Other than the slight disturbance caused by Yi Zan stepping into the Unity Realm, Yang City remained exceptionally peaceful. During this period, many cultivators poured into Yang City. When they saw how peaceful Yang City was, they were very surprised. After some digging around, they found out that it was Yi Zan who had issued the order. The cultivators who had just entered the city were very excited. They had not expected that the invincible expert of the Great Qian dynasty would be here. Zhongping Province, the entrance to the Moon Demon Mystic Realm. 30 kilometers away from Yang City, there was a forest that stretched as far as the eye could see. On the third day after Yi Zan's breakthrough, the originally tightly shut entrance suddenly changed. Spatial ripples appeared, forming a magical-looking entrance. Chapter 123, Fairies. Soon, the news of the opening of the Mystic Realm's entrance spread. The cultivators, who had been waiting for a long time, all revealed excited expressions as they rushed toward the entrance. Not long after, the endless forest was filled with cultivators, both weak and strong. The local demon beasts of the forest were stunned, and instantly fled after sensing the aura of a core formation realm expert. In the past, these demon beasts were the ones who took the initiative to attack humans, but now the tables had turned. Was this a FC King counterattack? These low-level demonic beasts were not intelligent to begin with, but they could still accurately sense danger, especially when it was life-threatening. Thanks to this, there was a stampede of demon beasts fleeing from the tide of human cultivators, leaving behind a trail of dust and debris in their wake. Very quickly, the cultivators arrived at the entrance of the Mystic Realm in the middle of the forest. About 30 meters off the ground, spatial ripples hovered in place. This was the entrance to the Mystic Realm. However, no cultivator dared to advance rashly. The spatial gate was not fully formed yet, so if they tried to enter recklessly, they would be devoured by the power of the spatial void. At the same time, Yi Zan also arrived with Yu and Li Qingyan. Their appearance immediately attracted everyone's attention. Yi Zan. Is that the legendary Yi Zan? Why is he so handsome? Oh my god, is he really only 20 years old? My heart can't stop pounding. Wait, are those two his disciples? They are too beautiful, just like fairies descending to the mortal world. How infuriating. Why are such beautiful ladies not listed on the Great Qian dynasty's list of peerless beauties? Brother, you don't understand. That so-called list of peerless beauties is such a vulgar thing. How can it be worthy of these two fairies? It is said that when the two fairies entered Yi Zan's tutelage, their cultivation levels were not very high. However, under Yi Zan's guidance, they became peerless geniuses in less than a month. Are you kidding? Is Yi Zan's ability to teach his disciples so awesome? How can this be fake? This is a fact that we all recognize, okay. Brother, aren't you too ignorant? That's right. Not only is elder Yi Zan young and handsome, he's also the best teacher in the world. Oh my god, I also want to be his disciple. Comma. As the spatial gate slowly formed, everyone snuck glances in Yizan's direction and began to discuss enthusiastically. The girls were infatuated with Yizan's handsome face, while the guys were deeply impressed by his powerful strength. Of course, the guys also stared at Yu and Li Qingyan. Yizan listened to the discussions of the crowd. Despite this, he was outwardly calm and expressionless. Aren't these guys too brazen? Do they really think I won't notice? Wait, it seems like everyone is praising me. That's not too bad then. Are these guys trying to get me to take them in as my disciples through flattery? Screech. Just as everyone was embroiled in their discussions, a cry suddenly rang out, and then a huge demon beast carrying 2 cultivators slowly descended. It was a powerful condor whose body was covered in black feathers. It's the Black Mountain Condor. It's said that after the Black Mountain Condor reaches maturity, its strength is comparable to an 8th level Purple Spirit Realm human cultivator. To be able to use such a powerful demon beast as a mount, the identities of these 2 people aren't simple. Everyone's gaze turned toward the Black Mountain Condor. There were not many flying mounts to begin with. Furthermore, capturing a demon beast that had reached the 8th level of the Purple Spirit Realm as a mount was no simple matter. After all, the stronger the demon beast was, the higher its intelligence would be. Most powerful demon beasts had their own dignity. Some of them would even choose death over becoming someone's mount. In any case, not everyone could be like Yizan, who could directly use the system to obtain mounts. Ha ha ha, it's finally time for the fun to begin. As the saying goes, better late than never. On the huge Black Mountain Condor sat 2 people. One was an old man, and the other was a young man. Both were wearing blood-red robes. The one who spoke was the young man. He glanced at Yu and Li Qingyan in the crowd, and a hint of surprise flashed across his eyes, but he quickly turned away and swept his gaze across the crowd. After a while, his gaze landed on a man dressed in white, and a mocking smile appeared on his face. Third Prince, we haven't seen each other in 5 years. I didn't expect your cultivation level to still be the same as before. You're really trash. Chapter 124. Attack me 3 times. It's you. The white-clothed man, who was the 3rd prince, frowned when he saw the young man. The 2 of them knew each other. The blood-red robed young man's name was Mo Tianyi. He had the same noble status as the 3rd prince. He was the 2nd prince of the Great Chuan Empire. I didn't expect the 3rd prince to still remember me. It has been 6 years since our last battle. Back then, there wasn't a clear winner. Today, I want that to change. I'd like to see if you, the so-called strongest genius of the Great Qian Empire, have made any progress in the past 6 years. I've defeated all of the heavens blessed in the Great Chuan Empire. Now, only you are qualified to be my opponent. I hope you won't disappoint me. Mo Tianyi looked at the 3rd prince mockingly. However, before the 3rd prince could reply, everyone became restless. What? When did the 3rd prince become the strongest genius in our Great Qian Empire? Exactly. How have I never heard of this before? Oh, I almost forgot. 6 years ago, the 3rd prince was indeed the strongest genius of our Great Qian dynasty. Mo Tian frowned when he saw the commotion. Could it be that, in these few years, a genius even more monstrous than the 3rd prince had appeared in the Great Qian dynasty? Although he was puzzled, he did not ask. After all, his current target was the 3rd prince. After he defeated the 3rd prince, there was no harm in asking who the strongest genius was. 6 years ago, compared to the 3rd prince who dominated the entire Great Qian dynasty, Yizan at that time had only started making a name for himself. It was precisely because of this that Mo Tianyi was not familiar with Yizan's name. In the past, Mo Tianyi and the 3rd prince's strength were neck and neck. They were both considered the strongest geniuses of their respective empires. They had once challenged each other, but unfortunately, neither one emerged victorious. However, after that great battle, Mo Tianyi became a personal disciple of the Nether God sect, and was personally taught by his teacher for 3 years. After he succeeded in increasing his cultivation level, he trained alone in the outside world for 3 years. His strength was no longer the same as before. Not long ago, he returned to the Great Chuan dynasty and challenged the genius cultivators of the younger generation of the Great Chuan dynasty alone. Moreover, the strongest 10 genius cultivators joined hands and were easily defeated by him. Hence, he came here looking for a fight instead. 3rd prince, do you dare to fight me? Mo Tianyi lifted his eyelids slightly and looked at the 3rd prince with disdain. Why wouldn't I dare? The 3rd prince shouted and took a step forward. The spiritual power in his body surged forth and dense purple spirit power surrounded him. This battle was inevitable. This was not only about his personal dignity, but also the dignity of the great Qian royal family. Besides, how could he cower in front of everyone? Seeing this, everyone made space to allow them to fight. The third prince's strength lives up to his reputation. Looking at his appearance, he seems to have almost reached the 5th level of the purple spirit realm. My God, he is only 26 years old too. He is indeed worthy of being called the strongest genius of our great Qian dynasty. But what a pity. At that moment, everyone was discussing animatedly. When the words, strongest genius, were spoken, Yi Zan's appearance involuntarily appeared in their minds. In order to avoid damaging the third prince's confidence, they tactfully did not mention Yi Zan. Yi Zan was someone who was on a different plane of existence. Whether it was talent or strength, Yi Zan had reached an unprecedented level in the history of the great Qian dynasty. He was practically invincible. Therefore, if they treated Yi Zan as a member of the younger generation, the others would simply pale in comparison. It was better to call him an anomaly and leave him out of the equation completely. It seems that you've been living too comfortably these past few years. How about this? I'll let you hit me 3 times. If you can force me to retreat using any of those 3 moves, then I'll consider it your win. Mo Tianyi looked at the third prince indifferently, his eyes filled with contempt. You're really arrogant. Hearing this, the third prince was enraged. It had only been 6 years, yet this guy had actually become insufferably arrogant. Previously, their talent levels were almost the same, and during this period, he had cultivated assiduously. What gave him the right to be this arrogant? Thinking this, the third prince sneered. Since Mo Tianyi was courting death, why not satisfy him? He directly used one of his most powerful moves. Your Highness, you must not be careless. This person is not simple. The third prince did not notice anything unusual about Mo Tianyi, but the old man beside him did. This old man was an expert from the great Qian royal family. He was specially assigned to be the third prince's Dao protector. He was a middle-stage true core realm expert. However, even so, he was unable to sense Mo Tianyi's specific cultivation level. Through his spiritual sense, Mo Tianyi's cultivation level fluctuated between the 3rd and 1st level of the purple spirit realm. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing, the third prince casually replied, but he did not take the old man's advice to heart. Moments later, the purple spirit power in the third prince's body surged out, and his fist emitted a bright light. Swoosh! The third prince's figure flashed, and he appeared in front of Mo Tianyi. Immediately, he threw his fist and ruthlessly tried to smash it into Mo Tianyi's chest. The fist contained a large amount of force. Even a huge rock that was dozens of meters large would instantly be turned into dust upon impact. Mo Tianyi's eyes did not show any signs of panic when he saw this. There was still a smile on his face. Moments later, wisps of strange black energy suddenly appeared around his body and wrapped around him. Bang! The third prince's expression changed drastically. The powerful force contained in his right fist was like a rock sinking into the sea. It was instantly devoured. Meanwhile, Mo Tianyi's body was still standing in the same spot, not wavering in the slightest. How is this possible? The third prince's expression fluctuated, and he hurriedly retreated. 7th level of the purple spirit realm. That's netherworld black energy. You actually joined the netherworld god sect. The old man not far away uttered in shock when he saw this. The instant that strange black aura appeared, he immediately identified Mo Tianyi's background. Old thing, it looks like you're not blind. After that battle, I already joined the Nether God sect and became a personal disciple. Mo Tianyi's gaze was arrogant as he spoke. Chapter 125. You are too useless. The Nether God sect. Could it be that legendary sect? Is there any other sect in the entire Nanzhou region with the same name? Oh my God. He actually joined the Nether God sect and became a personal disciple. It's no wonder he was able to receive the third prince's attack without suffering any injuries. This is not good. Hearing this, the crowd were shocked, and those cultivators who had heard of the Nether God sect were dumbfounded. They were well aware of the reputation of the Nether God sect. This was a super faction in the Nanzhou region, and it was not something that the top-ranked sects of the Great Qian dynasty could compare to. The second-ranked Xuanian sect was nothing compared to the Nether God sect. Within empires like the Great Qian dynasty and the Baijin dynasty, although sects were powerful, they were still inferior to the royal family. The royal family of each empire had absolute power over the sects. Of course, Yi Zan was once again an exception to this. However, the Nether God sect was different. Not only was it not under the jurisdiction of any empire, but there were also countless empires under it. It was said that the Nether God sect controlled 16 empires, and each of those empires could crush the Great Qian dynasty. This was enough to show how terrifying the Nether God sect was. Mo Tianyi had joined the Nether God sect as a personal disciple. This was enough to show how heaven-defying his luck was. This was a super sect in the Nanzhou region. The resources he had access to as a personal disciple were endless, and there were even super experts personally guiding him in his cultivation. Even if all the resources of the Great Qian dynasty were totaled up, it would still be less than 1% of what the Nether God sect possessed. It was no wonder Mo Tianyi was so arrogant. You still have 2 moves left. Mo Tianyi slowly raised 2 fingers and said arrogantly. Seeing this, the third prince hardened his gaze. Then, a hint of viciousness flashed across his eyes. He reached out and clenched his hand. A longsword that emitted a powerful aura suddenly appeared. It was a high-grade spiritual weapon. Once he infused his spiritual power into it, his strength would increase several-fold. Swoosh. The longsword in the third prince's hand released a brilliant sword chi, which then turned into a torrent of sword chi that slashed toward Mo Tianyi. Mo Tianyi's expression did not change at all when he saw this. He simply clasped his hands, and wisps of that strange black energy surged out and wrapped around him again. Sizzle. The moment the brilliant sword chi touched the black energy, it was immediately corroded by an invisible force. Even the sword itself made sizzling sounds. Your weapon is pretty good. I'll accept it thankfully. As soon as he finished his sentence, strands of strange black energy immediately wrapped themselves around the longsword, and were about to wrap themselves around the third prince's hand as well. At the same time, the third prince felt a powerful suction force pulling him. It was as if that force wanted to tear apart his dantian. The third prince hurriedly released the longsword. Moments later, the black energy transformed into countless tentacles and swallowed the longsword. Mo Tianyi, you. The third prince looked at Mo Tianyi with an enraged expression. You've disappointed me greatly. It's been a full 6 years, yet your cultivation has barely advanced. Do you still have any trump cards? If you don't use them now, you won't have the chance to later, Mo Tianyi said with a cold smile. It was precisely these words that caused the third prince to go completely berserk. The purple spirit power in his body rampaged crazily, and along with a cracking sound, he actually directly crossed the bottleneck of the 4th level of the purple spirit realm. And broke through to the 5th level of the purple spirit realm. Third prince, don't be rash. Seeing this, the old man's expression changed greatly, and he hurriedly shouted a warning. However, it was already too late. The third prince charged toward Mo Tianyi. He had not really broken through, but had instead used a special secret technique to temporarily raise his cultivation. However, this would also affect his cultivation foundation, so he would not use it unless he was in a desperate situation. The power within the third prince's body slowly gathered in his right fist. At the same time, a streak of bright purple spirit power lit up and crashed into Mo Tianyi. Boom. Unfortunately, it was still useless. Mo Tianyi effortlessly blocked the third prince's attack. Impossible. Seeing this, the third prince's expression changed drastically. His eyes were filled with fear, and then his figure retreated frantically. I've already given you the opportunity, but unfortunately, you did not cherish it. In the Tianyuan continent, the strong prey on the weak. Trash like you do not even have the right to live. However, seeing that we were evenly matched in the past, I will give you one last chance. As long as you can survive one move from me, I'll consider it your victory. Mo Tianyi revealed a cold smile as he said this. After he finished speaking, countless wisps of strange black energy emerged from his body. Then, his entire body transformed into a black fog and disappeared. Moments later, Mo Tianyi appeared in front of the third prince. At the same time, a fist wrapped in that strange black energy was hurled at the third prince. The third prince hurriedly raised his arm to block. However, the moment the fist came into contact with the arm, the fist mysteriously passed through the arm and ruthlessly smashed into the third prince's chest. Bang! The sound of bones breaking could be heard, and the third prince was sent flying like a cannonball, before landing on the ground some distance away. Third prince. The old man's expression changed when he saw this. He dashed over and quickly arrived next to the third prince, carefully helping him up. Phew! The moment the third prince opened his eyes, he spat out a mouthful of blood and his face turned extremely pale. Hee, is this the strength of the strongest genius of the Great Qian dynasty? You really wasted these 6 years. How could I be on par with a trash like you back then? Mo Tianyi looked at the third prince indifferently, then turned to look at the crowd. He paused for a few seconds when he saw Yu and Li Qingyan. Kid, you're courting death. How dare you hurt my prince in the territory of the great Qian dynasty? After the old man helped the third prince up, his eyes were filled with anger. The terrifying power of a middle-stage true core realm cultivator swept out. Chapter 126. You're laughing at me. Moments later, the spiritual power in his dantian transformed into a giant hand and tried to slap Mo Tianyi. Not only did these two of them cross the border into the great Qian dynasty, but they had also severely injured the third prince. Although the third prince had agreed to accept the challenge, as his Dao protector, he could not just sit back and watch. Everyone's expression changed when they saw this. The strength of a core formation realm expert was indeed terrifying. Everyone immediately backed away again, afraid that they would be swept up or injured by the shockwaves from this attack. HMPH. At this moment, someone coldly snorted. A cold gleam flashed across the eyes of the blood-robed elder standing atop the Black Mountain Condor. He then extended his hand toward the gigantic hand, causing it to disperse into specks of starlight before disappearing. However, the blood-red robed elder did not stop there. He attacked the old man beside the third prince. A strange wisp of black energy surged out like a swarm of bees and slammed into the old's body. Bang! Although the old man tried to dodge, his shoulder was still pierced by the black energy. His face became extremely pale, and the aura around his body was thrown into chaos. The black energy was corroding the power in his dantian. Golden Core Realm. You are a Golden Core Realm expert of the Nether God sect. The old man's facial expression changed drastically. Although the Great Qian dynasty was not afraid of the Great Chuan dynasty, things were different when it came to the Nether God sect. Hee, your master is trash, and you are also trash. Mo Tianyi's gaze fell on the heavily injured third prince and the old man, and a sneer hung on the corners of his mouth. As everyone was afraid of the strength of the blood-robed old man, no one dared to step forward to help them. Didn't you all say earlier that the strongest genius of the Great Qian dynasty isn't the third prince? I'd like to see who the current strongest genius is. I've already defeated the predecessor, so it's time to defeat his successor. Don't you think that your Great Qian dynasty is filled with trash? The third prince of a majestic dynasty is so weak that he was easily trampled under my feet. What a joke. Mo Tianyi looked at the crowd proudly, his gaze full of provocation. His gaze deliberately lingered on Yu and Li Qingyan for a few more seconds. Even in the Nether God sect, he had never seen such outstanding-looking women. In order to attract the attention of Yu and Li Qingyan, Mo Tianyi displayed the strength of his aura. Peak of the 7th level of the Purple Spirit Realm. I'm very curious, is the strongest genius of your Great Qian dynasty here? If he really is, tell him to show himself. I'd like to see who the genius who defeated the trashy third prince is. I hope he won't be as weak. With an advanced stage Golden Core Realm expert backing him, Mo Tianyi was not afraid of the crowd at all. His words were full of ridicule and contempt. However, as soon as he finished speaking, the faces of the crowd suddenly changed. Originally, the crowd was angered by Mo Tianyi's arrogance, especially after he defeated the third prince. If they had not been afraid of his strength, some people would have directly rushed forward. After all, the third prince represented the dignity of their Great Qian dynasty, so trampling on him was akin to trampling on the Great Qian dynasty. However, after Mo Tianyi finished his last sentence, the anger dissipated. Instead, they all revealed strange expressions on their faces. Every cultivator looked at him as if they were looking at an idiot. When Mo Tianyi saw this, he was stunned. Then, killing intent appeared in his eyes. This group of ants actually dared to look at him like this. Were they seeking death? Were they all fools? Ever since Mo Tianyi joined the Nether God sect, he had enjoyed respect and worship of the public, so how could he stand being looked down upon like this? Immediately, his aura surged out and transformed into spiritual pressure that swept out toward the cultivators present. Seeing this, the crowd hurriedly retreated some distance. The other party was still a 7th level Purple Spirit Realm expert after all, and most of the cultivators present had not even reached the Purple Spirit Realm. You actually dare to mock me. Suddenly, a wisp of hellfire condensed in his palm. He did not know why these cultivators were looking at him like this, but it made him feel extremely displeased. As the second prince of the Great Chuan Empire, and also a personal disciple of the Nether God sect, he would kill these lowly ants for insulting him like this. Of course, if he met a genius whose talent was more monstrous than his, then he would restrain himself. However, what kind of genius could there be in such a backward place like the Great Qian dynasty? Die. Moments later, the hellfire ball in Mo Tiany's hand was hurled savagely toward a middle-aged man. This hellfire ball contained all of the power in his dantian and, coupled with the special nature of the black energy, even an 8th level purple spirit realm expert might not be able to withstand it. At this moment, the leader of the Mad Saber sect, who was leaning against the tree, was stunned. I was just laughing at you. Is there a need to be so impulsive? An ordinary purple spirit realm cultivator would not have been able to react to this, much less dodge, but he was a core formation realm cultivator. Although he had decisively chosen to stay low-key after that incident with Yizan, he was still a bona fide core formation realm cultivator. No matter how powerful Mo Tianyi was, he was still only a purple spirit realm cultivator. Besides, why could he not laugh? Everyone else had laughed, but only he was targeted. What was so special about his laugh? In any case, this matter was indeed very funny. A mere 7th level purple spirit realm cultivator actually dared to attempt to challenge the greatest genius of the Great Qian dynasty. At the very least, you should have done his research before challenging someone. This was akin to throwing his life away stupidly. True, he was a personal disciple of the Nether God sect, but so what? Did that qualify him to act so brazenly? Did he think he knew the limits of the geniuses of the world just because he had joined a sect that had its roots in the Nanzhou region? As the saying went, there would always be someone greater than you. In his ignorance, he was challenging a 20-year-old Unity Realm expert. Was he even worthy of challenging Yizan? Chapter 127. You are not worthy of fighting, teacher. In the beginning, the leader of the Mad Saber sect had tried to restrain his laughter, but failed. Moreover, among the many cultivators present, he could be considered to possess a deep understanding of Yizan's strength. Heck, even the Golden Core Realm expert from the Nether God sect was no match for Yizan. Besides, did Mo Tianyi really think that he was a pushover? Sure, he had been low-key ever since that incident, but since the other party wanted to mess with him, there was no reason not to show off a little. The leader of the Mad Saber sect casually stretched out his hand and grabbed the ball of hellfire, which was instantly snuffed out. However, he stopped there. After all, there was a Golden Core Realm expert standing behind Mo Tianyi. A core formation realm expert. Mo Tianyi saw this and could not help but frown. He had randomly picked a cultivator to vent his anger on, but this cultivator turned out to be a core formation realm expert. When he thought of this, he became even more furious. Another ball of hellfire condensed in his palm. Sure, he could not beat a core formation realm expert, but what about the others? Right now, his heart was filled with displeasure. He had to find someone to vent his anger on. However, at this moment, a peerless beauty slowly walked out. The woman held a longsword in her hand and looked at Mo Tianyi indifferently, before saying, a mere 7th level purple spirit realm expert doesn't have the qualifications to challenge my teacher. I can deal with you with just one sword strike. Li Qingyan slowly raised the sword in her hand. The tip of the sword radiated a sharp sword aura as it was slowly pointed at Mo Tianyi. She, who had always been calm and collected, was currently filled with anger. She would not care if Mo Tianyi defeated the third prince or insulted the Great Qian dynasty. However, she could not just sit by and watch as Mo Tianyi insulted her teacher. How dare he say that her teacher was trash? How ridiculous. Li Qingyan glanced at Yizan. After obtaining her teacher's consent, she decisively chose to attack Mo Tianyi. He was just a 7th level purple spirit realm cultivator. He was not worth her teacher's time at all. Moreover, the meaning in Yizan's eyes was very obvious. He allowed Li Qingyan to use her full strength. This guy was already attacking the young cultivators of the Great Qian dynasty. Although he did not care much about the dignity of the empire, he was still a member of the Great Qian dynasty. How could he sit idly by? Still, Mo Tianyi was just a piddling purple spirit realm cultivator. It would be unbecoming of him to take action on such a weak cultivator. Such small matters were better left to his disciples. It's you. When Mo Tianyi's gaze fell on Li Qingyan, his eyes briefly lit up, before turning cold once again. He had noticed you and Li Qingyan in the crowd from the beginning. After all, the two women were too beautiful, so it was nearly impossible to miss them. However, when he noticed you and Li Qingyan, he also saw Yizan beside them. Although he was a little unwilling to admit it, Yizan's appearance was definitely superior to his. As someone of the same gender, he decisively chose to ignore Yizan. However, he was also a little surprised by the fact that he could not sense you and Li Qingyan's cultivation levels. Even so, he did not think much of it. After all, the two women looked very young. How strong could they be? She even said that she only needed one sword strike to defeat him. That was really laughable. However, it was also good. He had to defeat these two women using absolute strength to conquer them for himself. At that time, not only would he gain fame, but he would also be able to take two beautiful women home. Would that not be great? However, who was the teacher that this woman was talking about? Could it be that you are the strongest genius of the great Qian dynasty? Mo Tiany's gaze landed on Li Qingyan, and a trace of mockery flashed through his eyes. Although he already knew that it was not the other party, he still could not help but tease her. My teacher is the strongest genius of the great Qian dynasty. But I'm more than capable of finishing you off. Li Qingyan slowly raised her longsword, and spiritual power from her dantian slowly poured into the longsword. Such a person was not worth her time. Seeing this, Mo Tianyi narrowed his eyes. He actually felt an extreme sense of danger from this longsword. Can Li Qingyan really defeat Mo Tianyi? Although Elder Yi Zan's ability to teach disciples is excellent, and their strength has increased rapidly, they might not be able to defeat Mo Tianyi. After all, he's a personal disciple of the Nether God sect. The people around them could not help but reveal worried expressions. Did I hear you wrongly? You're actually worried about Li Qingyan. Are you doubting Elder Yi Zan's strength? Given Elder Yi Zan's strength, do you think he wouldn't know which of these two is stronger? That's right. If Elder Yi Zan gave her his approval, he must be confident that she will win. That makes sense. We got worried for nothing. Fairy Li Qingyan will definitely beat that arrogant person. Ha ha ha, I am looking forward to seeing that guy defeated by Fairy Li Qingyan. What an arrogant kid. Does he really think that he is the strongest genius of the Nanzhou region just because he joined the Nether God sect? The Nether God sect is indeed terrifying, but that doesn't mean that he is the same. He's just a 7th level purple spirit realm, yet he wants to challenge Elder Yi Zan. If Elder Yi Zan simply waves his hand, it will be more than enough to crush him to death. Mo Tiany's age is almost the same as the third prince's. They are both around 26 years old. Reaching the 7th level of the purple spirit realm at such a young age is indeed worthy of praise, but that's about it. Compared to Elder Yi Zan, he's nothing. Chapter 128. You have reached the Unity Realm. The crowd did not keep their voices down when they spoke. Mo Tianyi could hear their discussion clearly. Moreover, they were specifically trying to anger Mo Tianyi to death. If Li Qingyan had not chosen to make a move, the crowd would not have had the courage to do so, but since Li Qingyan stood forth, it meant that Yi Zan intended to deal with this situation. In the entire Great Qian dynasty, was there an opponent worthy of Yi Zan? The blood-robed old man. Could a mere advanced stage Golden Core Realm expert block a single one of his sword strikes? It was precisely because of this that no one held back the disdain they had previously hidden in their hearts. After all, Mo Tianyi had not only targeted the third prince, but had also said that they were trash. Who could stomach this? Although they could not defeat Mo Tianyi, Yi Zan could. Countless cultivators ridiculed him in unison. Reality would prove that everyone's verbal attacks were very effective. Mo Tianyi's body could not stop trembling. His face contorted into a mix of anger and ferocity. If he had not maintained the last shred of calmness in his heart, the power in his body would have already gone berserk. Damn it, you trash are simply courting death. After I defeat this woman, I will definitely ask Elderly to kill all of you. All of you will die. Mo Tianyi clenched his fists tightly. His eyes were filled with monstrous killing intent. Ever since he joined the Nether God sect, his horizons had been broadened. After coming into contact with the top geniuses of the Nanzhou region, he was amazed. So the so-called geniuses of the Great Chuan Empire were just ordinary people in comparison to them. Originally, his level of talent was almost the same as the third prince's. However, thanks to the abundant resources of the Nether God sect, he had left the latter in the dust. As his strength increased, Mo Tianyi also gradually became arrogant and overbearing. Now, in his eyes, whether it was the Great Qian dynasty or the Baijin Empire, or even the Great Chuan Empire where he was from, none of them were worthy of his attention. Especially the cultivators of the younger generation, who were like ants in his eyes. However, the very cultivators he disdained were attacking his pride. His eyes were filled with monstrous anger. Invincible Yi Zan, strongest genius. He did not think that these pieces of trash would dare to fabricate such a ridiculous thing in order to anger him. However, you have succeeded. You have succeeded in angering me. The reward that awaits you is death. Whoosh! Just as Mo Tianyi was about to ask the blood-robed old man to act, Li Qingyan's longsword moved. Accompanied by a streak of bright light, a torrent of sword qi that soared to the sky surged forth. Although it was not 1,000th of Yi Zan's sword qi, it still contained terrifying power. In terms of power, she had already reached the peak of the purple spirit realm. What? Mo Tianyi's facial expression changed greatly when he saw this. He could actually sense the destructive power of this sword qi, and his soul trembled. He would not be able to withstand this attack. Mo Tianyi turned pale with fright as the torrent of sword qi barreled toward him. Wherever the torrent of sword qi passed, a trench that was dozens of meters followed in its wake. Elder Li. Immediately, Mo Tianyi looked at the blood-robed man in panic, asking for help. At the same time, the strange black energy surged out to form an energy barrier. You are so young, but your methods are so vicious. Fine, I will teach you a lesson on behalf of your elders. Just as the torrent of sword qi was about to land on Mo Tianyi, an indifferent voice suddenly rang out. Then, a terrifying force as vast as the ocean suddenly appeared and smashed into Li Qingyan's sword qi. The blood-robed old man had acted. Elder Li looked at Li Qingyan with an ice-cold gaze, and a trace of shock flashed across his eyes. That torrent of sword qi was not simple. Even a 10th-level purple spirit realm cultivator might not have been able to block it. In other words, if he had not acted, and Mo Tianyi did not use his trump card, Mo Tianyi would definitely have died. She was so young, yet her strength was so terrifying. In addition to that, the martial technique she used was extremely powerful. Boom! Just as Elder Li was thinking this, a terrifying power as vast as the world suddenly descended on his body and firmly imprisoned him. Yi Zan, who was not far away, had slowly stretched out his hand and then casually made a grabbing gesture. Moments later, Elder Li felt an invisible force around his neck that lifted him up. How is this possible? This power, this guy has actually reached the Unity Realm. How can a cultivator reach the Unity Realm in such a backward empire? Elder Li's face was flushed red. His eyes were filled with fear, and he struggled ferociously. Elder Yi Zan has finally made his move. Seeing this, everyone was excited. They could finally see the strongest cultivator of the Great Qian dynasty make his move. Not far away, Mo Tianyi witnessed this scene and was extremely frightened. He knew how strong Elder Li was. A top-tier advanced stage Golden Core realm expert. Even within the Nether God sect, Elder Li was not weak. However, he was easily restrained by this person. Who exactly was this person? You've actually reached the Unity Realm. How is that possible? The power of the natural laws in this area is so thin, so how could you possibly have done this? Elder Li was panicking. He was an elder of the Nether God sect, so he had naturally interacted with Unity Realm experts before, but he had never seen such a young Unity Realm expert. Moreover, he had already learned of Yi Zan's identity from the comments of the crowd. He was the strongest genius of the Great Qian dynasty. At the age of 20, this person had already stepped into the Unity Realm. Even in the entire Nanzhou region, this was unheard of. Wait, did I hear him wrongly just now? He said that Elder Yi Zan has reached the Unity Realm. Is this true? It has been hundreds of years since anyone in our Great Qian dynasty reached the Unity Realm. Did Elder Yi Zan really break this record? My God! As soon as the blood-robed elder finished speaking, everyone was stunned and in total disbelief. Chapter 129. You actually dared. Yi Zan's expression did not change at all. He gently lifted the blood-robed old man into the air. You can't kill me. Seeing this, Elder Li was terrified. He quickly shouted. I am an elder of the Nether God sect. If you kill me, you will definitely be hunted down by the entire Nether God sect. They will definitely be able to find out who killed me. When that happens, not only will you die, but your family, sect, and disciples will also not be spared. Not only that, the Great Qian dynasty will be buried with you. After sensing the killing intent in Yi Zan's eyes, Elder Li hurriedly brought up the name of the Nether God sect. You dare to threaten me. Seeing this, Yi Zan raised his brows slightly, and a dangerous look flashed across his eyes. Why aren't you letting Elder Li go? If you dare to make a move against us, you will definitely be hunted down by the Nether God sect. At that time, all 9 generations of your family will definitely be executed. Hearing Elder Li's words, Mo Tianyi gained confidence and added his own 2 cents into the mix. From his perspective, no matter how powerful Yi Zan was, he was just a big fish in a pond. The Nether God sect was a shark in the sea. How could a big fish compare to a shark? Unity Realm experts were indeed terrifying, but the Nether God sect did not lack Unity Realm experts. Throughout the entire Nanzhou region, other than those top-ranked super sects, the Nether God sect did not need to fear any faction at all, much less a single person from the Great Qian dynasty. In short, Yi Zan could not afford to offend them. Oh, hearing this, a sneer hung on the corners of Yi Zan's mouth. The old one had threatened him, and now the young one decided to open his potty mouth. These two people actually dared to threaten him with the lives of the sect and his disciples. I'm sorry, I'm a person who can be persuaded, but cannot be forced. Yi Zan's outstretched palm suddenly clenched, and Elder Li instantly turned into bloody mist. Before dying, his eyes were still filled with disbelief. Yi Zan had actually dared to kill him. With his identity, he had roamed the Nanzhou region untouched. Was Yi Zan really not afraid of being hunted down by the Nether God sect? Unfortunately, he would never know the answer. Mo Tianyi was stunned. He actually dared to kill Elder Li. Their identities had always shielded them from danger, but why was it useless now? Moreover, this fellow's strength was too terrifying. He had reached the Unity Realm at the age of 20. Just what kind of monster was this? How did things end up this way? Before his death, many thoughts flashed through Mo Tianyi's mind. However, moments later, Yi Zan reached out again and gently clenched his fist. Mo Tianyi's body exploded as well. Seeing this, everyone fell silent. They had been looking forward to seeing Yi Zan make a move, but now, they could not help but feel a sense of fear in their hearts. With a single move, he had ended the life of an advanced stage Golden Core Realm expert. This was too terrifying. In the rumors, Yi Zan had single-handedly destroyed the Xuanian sect with a single sword strike. Such an achievement made the blood of the Great Qian dynasty's young cultivators boil. They all regarded Yi Zan as their idol and hoped that one day they could become as powerful. However, today, when they saw Yi Zan crush Elder Li like an ant, the excitement in their hearts vanished, and was replaced by fear. Such terrifying power had completely exceeded their imagination. That was a Golden Core Realm expert. Throughout the entire Great Qian dynasty, among the top 10 sects, other than the top 5 sects, no other forces had a Golden Core Realm expert in their ranks. Such a rare and terrifying top-level expert was crushed to death by Yi Zan. The image of Yi Zan crushing a Golden Core Realm expert would remain in their hearts forever. This was an indelible mark. Of course, there were also some young cultivators who were even more excited. One should not underestimate the resilience of youth. Yi Zan did not know what kind of impact his actions had on those cultivators, but even if he knew, he would not be bothered with these things. The spatial gate is about to open. Yi Zan's gaze fell on the spatial gate. In the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, the entrance to the Moon Demon Mystic Realm would be completely open. Chapter 130. Mi Luo Flower. While Yi Zan and the others were waiting, the soul lamps belonging to the Elder Li and Mo Tianyi shattered. In an instant, the entire upper echelon of the Nether God sect mobilized, sending out instructions to find the murderer as soon as possible. The Nether God sect even sent out a law enforcement elder to preside over the investigation. The dignity of the Nether God sect was at stake. Even if this had been done by the other power super sects, the Nether God sect would never let it go. It finally opened. Yi Zan's gaze fell on the spatial gate, and he narrowed his eyes. Everyone revealed expressions of excitement, but chose to restrain themselves. Yi Zan was the strongest person here, so it would be unwise to enter before him. After Yi Zan gave some instructions to Yu and Li Qingyan, he turned into a streak of light and entered the spatial gate. The other cultivators of the Qingyan sect soon followed. After Yi Zan and the Qingyan sect entered, the others set off. Once they entered the spatial gate, everyone would be randomly teleported to different places. There was only a very small chance that they would be teleported to the same place. There were a total of 3 entrances to the Moon Demon Mystic Realm in the Great Qian dynasty. Millions of cultivators had gathered at each entrance. Moreover, the entrances did not only exist in the Great Qian dynasty, but also in the other parts of the Nanzhou region. Therefore, there were at least hundreds of millions of cultivators who entered the Moon Demon Mystic Realm. The Moon Demon Mystic Realm was also quite mysterious. When the Mystic Realm closed, it would allow cultivators to return to the same entrance they entered from. As soon as Yi Zan entered the Mystic Realm, his vision blurred. After a flash of blinding light, he arrived in another world. As far as the eye could see, there was an endless wilderness with countless mountains surrounding it. This world was filled with extremely dense spiritual power. However, what surprised Yi Zan was that his spiritual power was actually suppressed here. It was as if there was an inexplicable heavenly law that restricted his power. In the outside world, his spiritual sense could easily cover dozens of kilometers, but that distance was reduced by dozens of times in this world. Thinking this, Yi Zan could not help but frown. The suppression of spiritual sense was disadvantageous to him in his search for heavenly treasures. Moreover, the moon demon mystic realm was vast and boundless. It would only be open for 7 days, so there was not much time to explore. Therefore, what treasures a cultivator could obtain during this period depended on their own luck. It was nearly impossible to explore the entire moon demon mystic realm. In other words, even those who were strong were not guaranteed to obtain precious heavenly treasures, and those who were weak might even emerge with more. The kind of opportunities one could obtain depended on one's own luck. This was also the reason why countless cultivators were willing to risk their lives to enter the moon demon mystic realm. Whoosh, whoosh. In a lush forest, 2 figures suddenly flashed by like streaks of light, flying toward the distant mountains. These 2 were also cultivators from the Great Qian dynasty, and the location of their starting teleportation point was not far from Yi Zan's. When they saw Yi Zan, they tactfully chose to retreat. There was no point competing with a Unity Realm expert for heavenly treasures. Yi Zan did not care too much about this. His spiritual sense swept out and slowly inspected the surroundings for heavenly treasures. There were indeed some spiritual herbs in the dense forest, but unfortunately their grades were very low. Not only would they have no effect on Yi Zan, even Qi Transformation Realm cultivators would shake their heads when they saw them. Moreover, his storage ring contained all of the resources of the Xuanian sect, so how could he be interested in these low-grade heavenly treasures? As time passed, Yi Zan explored a number of places, but only found some medicinal herbs that could be used to refine pills. Suddenly, Yi Zan's spiritual sense detected violent energy fluctuations. Immediately, Yi Zan's eyes lit up. Based on the energy fluctuations, this heavenly treasure's grade would not be low. Yi Zan's figure flashed and appeared next to a waterfall. He saw a pure white flower growing on the branch of a big tree around the waterfall. It's a Mi Duo flower. Seeing this, Yi Zan's eyes lit up and a smile appeared on his face. He had been ignorant of the Mi Duo flower previously. However, when he became an alchemist, he gained more than experience and skills. He also gained the ability to identify countless herbs and heavenly treasures. This flower was not a medicinal ingredient. If it was consumed, it would not be able to increase one's cultivation. Moreover, it would have no effect on the cultivator's innate bone value and comprehension value. However, it did have an effect that made countless cultivators go crazy over it, which was that it could temper one's spiritual sense. There were 3 ways for cultivators to increase their spiritual power. The first was by advancing realms, which would strengthen the cultivator's spiritual sense naturally. The second was by practicing a spiritual sense cultivation method, but such methods were extremely rare. Even Yi Zan had not seen one before. Third, one could use extremely special spiritual objects, such as this Mi Duo flower. There were very few things that could temper one's spiritual sense. It was even more precious than the heavenly treasures that could increase a cultivator's innate bone value and comprehension value. This Mi Duo flower alone is enough to make this trip worthwhile. Yi Zan's gaze fell on the Mi Duo flower. The reason why his strength far surpassed experts of the same realm was because he had a special sword constitution, as well as sword intent. However, beyond that, his spiritual sense was very powerful as well. Perhaps this was due to the fact that these soul had transmigrated here. In short, the power of his spiritual sense was much stronger than ordinary cultivators. If one's spiritual sense reached a certain level, there were many benefits. For example, the ability to sense the power of the heavenly Tao in danger, as well as increasing the degree of control over one's own power. A cultivator with strong spiritual sense would also be able to stabilize their cultivation foundation rapidly after breaking through. After all, it was very difficult for a cultivator to fully mobilize the power in their dantian. For example, if the spiritual power inside the dantian of a top-notch expert whose cultivation had reached the early stage of the true core realm were rated at 100, then the power they could mobilize would be between 80 to 95. However, if the cultivator's spiritual sense was strong enough, then they would be able to perfectly control their own power and fully unleash the power in their dantian. Chapter 131. How interesting. However, as the cultivator's realm increased, the spiritual sense strength requirement would also increase. Taking Yi Zan's current strength for example, if his spiritual sense was only at the level of an ordinary true core realm cultivator, then he would probably only be able to display 10% of his strength. The power contained in the Dantian included Qi power, spiritual power, true essence power, purple spirit power, and so on. The stronger a cultivator's soul was, the stronger his spiritual sense power would be, and vice versa. If one's soul was strong enough, one could leave one's physical body and exist eternally in the world. At that time, even if the body was destroyed, it could be reborn through the soul again. After Yi Zan stepped into the Unity realm, his soul was already capable of leaving his body, but unfortunately, this state could not be maintained for too long. After all, the human soul was too fragile. Sai, if you and Li Qingyan were by my side, I would be able to use the system to maximize the value of this Mi Duo flower. Thinking this, Yi Zan could not help but show a regretful expression. The Mi Duo flower was extremely fragile. If it was not taken quickly after being plucked, it would wither. Not being able to use the system was a waste. Still, to be able to encounter such a spiritual object in the mystic realm was already a tremendous opportunity. Yi Zan no longer hesitated. He plucked the Mi Duo flower and consumed it. The energy inside the Mi Duo flower turned into specks of starlight and slowly poured into Yi Zan's Dantian. Then, it gathered into his soul. The starlight energy was very gentle. It slowly wrapped itself around his spiritual sense, and then began to pulse. As time slowly passed, Yi Zan's spiritual sense became more and more turbulent. Almost a day later, Yi Zan slowly opened his eyes. Then he extended his index finger. Invisible gusts of energy suddenly flowed out. Seeing this, Yi Zan smiled. Now he had perfect control over the power in his Dantian. He could easily divide his power into threads and distribute them accurately. I didn't expect the energy contained inside the Mi Duo flower to be beyond my imagination. The Moon Demon mystic realm really lives up to its name. Whoosh! Yi Zan then turned into a streak of light and disappeared. Hundreds of kilometers away, there was a huge mountain that seemed to touch the sky. At the top of the mountain, there was a crooked tree. The crooked tree looked very ugly, but at the top of the tree, there was a bright golden fruit. The golden fruit was very strange. On the surface, it looked like the face of Buddha. When a gentle breeze blew past, it seemed to emit the sound of chanting. The crooked tree itself also emitted strands of mysterious power. Several streaks of light suddenly appeared on the quiet mountain. Whoosh! 4 brilliant streaks of light tore through the sky from different directions. Their target was the golden fruit at the top of the mountain. 2 of them were faster, leaving the other 2 far behind. Yi Zan was among the 4, but he was much slower than the other 3. Of course, this was on purpose. The fastest was a muscular middle-aged man. Although he was still hundreds of meters away from the golden fruit, he suddenly stretched out his hand and transformed his spiritual power into a powerful suction force, pulling at the fruit. HMPH. Who is trying to snatch my opportunity? Suddenly, a cold voice rang out. The other middle-aged man used a secret technique and increased his speed. I'll give you 3 seconds to leave. Otherwise, don't blame this old man for being ruthless. At this moment, an aged voice leisurely spoke. As soon as he finished speaking, an old man suddenly appeared in front of the 2 middle-aged men. With a slight wave of his hand, a powerful force suddenly swept out. When the 2 middle-aged men saw this, their expressions changed and they hurriedly stopped in their tracks. Peak of the core formation realm. Immediately, the 2 middle-aged men decisively chose to give up on the golden fruit. They then turned around and left. Although they were unwilling, how could they compete with a super expert at the peak of the core formation realm? Aren't you afraid of death? The old man noticed that Yi Zan was still leisurely flying over. His gaze turned cold, and a hint of killing intent flashed across his eyes. At this moment, the golden fruit was right behind the old man. I will also give you a choice. Leave within 3 seconds, or you'll die, Yi Zan said calmly. He was determined to obtain that golden fruit. It was an extremely rare treasure, the Buddha spirit fruit. It could increase a cultivator's comprehension value. Ha ha ha, how ridiculous. Young people really don't know what's good for them. Seeing this, the old man smiled coldly. His eyes were filled with monstrous killing intent. Moments later, the old man raised his shriveled arm and his hand formed a fist. In an instant, a burst of violent energy emerged as his spiritual power transformed into a glowing fist that smashed toward Yi Zan. Seeing this, Yi Zan's expression did not change in the slightest. He also slowly raised his hand and also threw a punch. When the two waves of fists collided, they miraculously cancelled each other out. Seeing this, the old man revealed a surprised expression. This was too much of a coincidence. How could the force contained within those fists be cancelled out so perfectly? After his spiritual sense had been tempered by the Mi Duo flower, his control over the power in his dantian had reached an extremely terrifying level. Therefore, he could accurately analyze the amount of power contained in the old man's attack, and respond appropriately. How interesting. Suddenly, a hint of curiosity flashed through the old man's eyes. Then he reached out and took out a sharp axe from his storage space. Boom! The spiritual power in the old man's body gushed out and poured into the axe. The edge of the axe seemed like it could destroy heaven and earth. Then, he swung it at Yizan. Chapter 132. Almsgiver, please part with it. Seeing this, Yizan reached out his hand indifferently. A longsword suddenly appeared in his hand, after which he casually slashed out. Clang! The deafening sound of weapons colliding rang out. Sparks burst out, and then ripples of energy spread out. When the old man saw this, he trembled. How could the other party coincidentally cancel out his attack again? This was very wrong. An ominous premonition suddenly rose in the old man's heart. The young man opposite him had an extremely relaxed expression. Did this not mean that his strength far surpassed his own? Immediately, the old man hurriedly put away his axe and retreated frantically. At the same time, he wanted to take this opportunity to grab the Buddha's spirit fruit and flee. Even though he wanted to escape, he could not pass up the chance to obtain such a precious treasure. However, would Yizan let him do that? Well, the answer to that was obviously no. Yizan raised his longsword, and an incomparably violent sword chi hurricane suddenly swept toward the old man. What? Seeing this, the old man's facial expression changed, and he hurriedly crushed a protective jade token. This jade token possessed the power to defend against the attack of a half-step Unity Realm expert. Buzz! The jade token formed a tough energy barrier around him. Then, the old man charged toward the Buddha spirit fruit. At the same time, another jade token appeared in the old man's hand. This was a speed-boosting jade token. Seeing this, Yizan's eyes turned cold. The terrifying sword chi hurricane accelerated and ruthlessly slammed into the old man's energy barrier. Sensing the terrifying power of the sword chi hurricane, the old man hurriedly crushed the speed-boosting jade token in his hand. Following that, a cracking sound was heard. The energy barrier suddenly shattered. The sword chi hurricane engulfed the old man's body instantly. Wounds so deep that bone could be seen appeared on the old man's body. Although the old man had avoided most of the damage thanks to the speed-boosting jade token, he was still affected by the shockwaves. Yizan's sword chi raged wildly in the old man's meridians. As Yizan snapped his fingers lightly, the power of the sword chi in the old man's body split him into two. The sword chi hurricane just now had contained only a little more power than a half-step Unity Realm expert's attack. It was just enough to kill the old man without affecting the Buddha spirit fruit. If this person had chosen to run away decisively, Yizan would not have bothered with him. Unfortunately, he was a greedy person, which caused his death. Then, Yizan put away the longsword in his hand. He took a step forward and was about to reach for the golden fruit. Suddenly, a voice rang out. Almsgiver, that golden fruit is fated with Buddhism, so it should belong to this penniless monk. At the same time, an incomparably vast and terrifying pressure swept over. It was a Unity Realm expert. Seeing this, Yizan frowned. As expected, he still encountered a Unity Realm expert from the Nanzhou region in the end. However, Yizan did not stop moving. Instead, he flashed forward and his palm instantly landed on the Buddha spirit fruit. As his palm and the Buddha spirit fruit came into contact, Yizan suddenly sensed extremely mysterious Buddhist chants slowly ringing out in his mind. After taking the Buddha spirit fruit, Yizan calmly raised his head, and he stared into the sky. Several dozen meters away, the space was brightened up by resplendent Buddhist light. Following that, a monk wearing a kasaya and holding a string of Buddhist beads appeared. Seeing this, a cold smile hung on the corners of Yizan's mouth. This monk was quite good at posturing. The Buddhist light that filled the sky caused his body to glow and look holy. If an ordinary person witnessed this, they would undoubtedly believe that Buddha himself had descended. The terrifying pressure of the Unity Realm expert swept out, no doubt warning and threatening Yizan. There were indeed Buddhist sects in the Tianyuan continent, and Buddhist cultivators were pretty much the same as ordinary cultivators. Of course, there were specific titles for the division of realms in Buddhist sects, such as the Venerable Vajra and Arhat. However, Yi Zan did not know much about Buddhism. After all, there were no Buddhist sects in the Great Qian dynasty. Actually, there were not many Buddhist sects in the Nanzhou region either. He did not know which Buddhist sect this monk came from. Almsgiver, that Buddha spirit fruit is fated with Buddhism. This penniless monk felt its call from afar. Almsgiver, can you part with it? The monk slowly turned the Buddhist beads in his hand while his other hand made an Amitabha gesture as he spoke slowly. Even so, the monk's gaze was fixed on the Buddha spirit fruit in Yi Zan's hand. A hint of concealed greed flashed through his eyes. Seeing this, Yi Zan's lips curled into a cold smile as he continued speaking indifferently. This Buddha spirit fruit is mine to begin with. Just because you say it's fated doesn't mean that it's yours. The monk was clearly greedy. The so-called fate with Buddhism was just his excuse. This monk was so shameless. Don't misunderstand, almsgiver. That Buddha spirit fruit contains Buddhist chants. It resonates with our path of cultivation. Naturally, it's fated with our Buddhism. This penniless monk had already sensed it when I was outside the moon demon mystic realm. As soon as I entered the mystic realm, I followed the calling in my heart and rushed over from afar. This penniless monk is fated with the Buddha spirit fruit. This is also a predestined karma. I hope that almsgiver can part with it. As he spoke, the monk's gaze was still fixed on the Buddha spirit fruit in Yi Zan's hand. His eyes did not leave it for even half a second. Not only could the Buddha spirit fruit increase a cultivator's comprehension value, but after consuming it, one would also experience an epiphany. It could be said to be an extremely precious heavenly treasure. Oh, then I feel that the Buddhist beads in Master's hands are fated with me. I wonder if you can part with it. Yi Zan looked at the monk indifferently. He could naturally see that the monk's Buddhist beads were extraordinary. Chapter 133, Unity Realm Battle. Hearing this, the monk slowly turned the Buddhist beads in his hand. He suddenly paused for a moment and revealed a smiling expression. Almsgiver, you really know how to joke. These Buddhist beads are our Buddhist sect. Then you must be joking too. Yi Zan interrupted the monk with a cold smile. Then, he put the Buddha spirit fruit into his storage ring and turned to leave. Almsgiver, don't be in a hurry to leave. Seeing this, the monk's eyes narrowed. However, Yi Zan acted as if he did not hear those words. He could not be bothered to argue with this monk. Alas, almsgiver, you are too stubborn. It's better for this penniless monk to teach you a lesson. The monk sighed. The Buddhist light around his body immediately swept out. Then he reached out his hand, and a resplendent giant hand suddenly appeared and tried to grab Yi Zan. Whoosh! At this moment, tyrannical sword chi burst forth and destroyed the giant hand. Ha! Seeing this, the monk revealed a surprised expression. However, he did not stop. He stretched out his fist and slowly released a dazzling golden light. Suddenly, his figure turned into a streak of light and disappeared. Moments later, the monk's figure suddenly appeared in front of Yi Zan. His right fist exuded dazzling golden light as it smashed toward Yi Zan. You're really courting death. Yi Zan's gaze turned completely cold. His longsword released a dazzling sword chi, and slashed toward the golden fist. Boom! The two terrifying forces collided violently. The monk's expression suddenly changed. He revealed a painful expression and hurriedly retreated. The fist that was originally emitting dazzling golden light now had a wound so deep that one could see the bones underneath. However, the wound soon disappeared without leaving even a trace of a scar. I can't believe that the almsgiver has actually reached the unity realm. The monk's gaze fell on Yi Zan. His eyes were filled with surprise. He had hidden himself earlier and watched Yi Zan kill that peak core formation realm expert. According to the monk's spiritual sense, Yi Zan was at most a half-step unity realm expert. It was also because of this that the monk had unscrupulously decided to ask for the Buddha spirit fruit. Almsgiver, are you really unwilling to part with the Buddha spirit fruit? After discovering Yi Zan's cultivation realm, the monk's eyes turned solemn. You can have it if you want. This Buddha spirit fruit can be exchanged with your Buddhist beads. Yi Zan replied as he sneered. In all honesty, even if the monk was really willing to exchange his Buddhist beads with the Buddha spirit fruit, Yi Zan would no longer agree to such a trade. The time for pleasantries was long past. The heavens are benevolent, but also cruel. It's a pity that almsgiver is too weak. In that case, let this penniless monk take the place of Buddha and educate you well. As soon as he finished speaking, the monk's body suddenly surged with golden light. In addition, a huge golden phantom suddenly appeared around his body. Unsurprisingly, it was in the form of Buddha. Vajra Demon Subjugation Body. The monk roared. His body was suffused with terrifying golden light as he charged toward Yi Zan. Vajra Demon Subjugation. Ridiculous. Seeing this, Yi Zan sneered. This monk was just a hypocrite who used Buddhism to justify his greedy behavior. Yi Zan's longsword exuded domineering sword chi, and struck the monk with the force of thunder. Clang, clang, clang. As the two people fought, heaven and earth trembled as violent shockwaves swept out, wreaking havoc in the surroundings. Although the monk's Vajra Demon Subjugation body was extremely powerful, it was easily dealt with by Yi Zan. Moreover, Yi Zan was able to precisely counter his attacks with the same amount of power. As time passed, the monk's expression gradually became unsightly. He did not expect this guy to be so strong. Which super sect's genius was he? Why did he not recognize him? Even though he was using the Vajra Demon Subjugation body, many wounds continued to appear on his body. However, the vitality of a Unity Realm super expert healed those wounds in an instant. After all, Unity Realm experts were also known as immortals because the divine element in their bodies contained incomparably powerful vitality. Even if his head was chopped off, it could be quickly restored and reconnected. Therefore, once a cultivator entered the Unity Realm, it was very difficult for them to die. Even when Unity Realm experts fought each other, deaths were very rare. Diamond Palm. The monk roared, and the power in his body swept out. Although he could not kill this guy, if he took advantage of the other party's carelessness with a sudden burst of power, would it not be enough to break the finger with the storage ring? As for killing Yi Zan, the monk did not bother with such a troublesome task. Boom! Mysterious Buddhist light appeared around the monk's body, and his defensive power increased rapidly. Seeing this, Yi Zan squinted his eyes. He had not noticed it before. The monk's kasaya was a powerful defensive artifact. It was no wonder the monk had chosen to fight bare-handed. The monk's defensive power had now increased threefold. Still, so what? The monk might have used his full strength earlier, but neither had Yi Zan. It was a rare opportunity for him to fight another Unity Realm expert, so he had been very curious as to what sort of surprises he would encounter during the fight. Even so, he was annoyed by this monk. Boom, boom, boom. The monk's palm was as bright as gold. As he waved his fist, space trembled endlessly. A flurry of golden fists smashed toward Yi Zan. Boom. Yi Zan moved and instantly dodged the monk's golden fist barrage. The barrage landed on the mountain, leveling it. Chapter 134. This stinky monk really has a lot of tricks up his sleeve. Whoosh. Sword chi flashed past. Ah. The monk immediately revealed a pained expression as he hurriedly retreated, pulling apart the distance between them. That sword attack just now had almost cut off his arm. His arm was barely hanging by a thread now, quite literally. This guy had not used his full strength earlier either. Immediately, the divine element in the monk's body did its job. It slowly reconnected his arm and regrew his flesh and bones. However, the monk was already fearful of Yi Zan's strength. He immediately turned around and tried to escape. He had already used the Vajra Demon Subjugation body and the Diamond Palm attack, not to mention the defensive power of the Kasaya. Even so, his arm had almost been severed by that sword strike. This was enough to show how terrifying Yi Zan was. Although he was lucky enough to save his arm, a large hole had appeared on the Kasaya. The torn cloth was still filled with streams of overbearing sword chi. Why was this young man's strength so terrifying? He might even have the strength to kill him, a Unity Realm expert. Yi Zan's sword chi could destroy his physical body faster it could recover. If he allowed that to go on for too long, he would die. When the vitality in the divine element was exhausted, he would not be able to heal himself. At that point, even if he escaped with his soul, he would not be able to survive for long. Do you think you can escape? Seeing this, Yi Zan sneered. This guy had wanted to snatch his treasure, but now, after realizing that his own life was in danger, he was trying to escape. There was no way Yi Zan was going to let him off this easily. Moreover, if he had been any weaker, he might have been killed by this monk. Whoosh. The longsword in Yi Zan's hand released even more sword chi, which flew through the sky and attacked the monk. The monk's expression changed. The sword chi was so fast that he had no time to dodge. The monk decisively crushed one of the Buddhist beads in his hand. Moments later, an energy barrier was formed. Boom. The sword chi ruthlessly struck the energy barrier, and it immediately began to shake violently. Unfortunately, the attack failed to shatter the energy barrier. Seeing this, Yi Zan frowned. Could it be that those Buddhist beads were some sort of consumable? They seemed to function like protective jade tokens. Moreover, the energy barrier formed by breaking the bead even managed to block his sword chi. Seeing this, the monk was relieved. Fortunately, this guy could not break the energy barrier. Before he could reach, an even more terrifying tyrannical sword chi suddenly struck the energy barrier. A sword Dao constitution. Wait, there's also sword intent. When the monk saw this, he turned pale with fright. Countless cracks suddenly appeared on the energy barrier before it shattered. Swoosh. The sword chi then easily sliced through the Kasaya's defense and Vajra demon's subjugation body. The monk's body was split into two, and he fell straight down. Of course, the monk was not dead. The divine element in his dantian surged out, releasing its vitality to heal his wounds. The monk's pupils were filled with shock. He had sensed the aura of death from that sword strike. If the other party attacked a few more times, he would definitely die. He was only at the first level of the Unity realm, so the vitality of his divine element was limited. Moments later, the monk decisively crushed two Buddhist beads. As the Buddhist beads shattered, a surge of power enveloped the monk. He flashed away. Seeing this, Yi Zan revealed a hint of surprise. I didn't expect this monk to have so many life-saving trump cards. The monk was moving so fast that he could not catch up with his current speed. However, if Yi Zan used the speed-boosting jade token he obtained from the system, things would change. A month after giving them first-grade jade tokens, Yi Zan had given them the second-grade jade tokens he had obtained from the system. Now, he was in possession of a third-grade speed-boosting token. As long as he crushed it, he would be able to quickly catch up to the monk. However, given Yi Zan's current strength, if he did not use his trump card, it would be very difficult to kill the monk. The offensive jade token in Yi Zan's possession could burst forth with an attack strength of a third-level Unity Realm expert. Using it to kill this monk would be a waste. Yi Zan frowned. He had not expected the gap in strength to narrow so greatly at this cultivation level. Although he could suppress the monk with absolute power, he could not kill him without wasting a trump card. Even if he accumulated his own power and used his most powerful attack, he could at most severely injure the monk. If he wanted to truly kill him, he would need to do this a few times. During the time he recovered his spiritual power, the monk would have enough time to use his trump card to escape. However, if the monk did not have the Kasaya and the Vajra demon subjugation body, Yi Zan would have been able to kill him instantly. Unfortunately, any expert who could step into the Unity realm definitely possessed their own fair share of trump cards. Therefore, if Yi Zan wanted to truly kill the monk, there were only three possibilities. He could either advance to the second level of the Unity realm, improve his Sword Dao constitution, or improve the level of his sword intent. The Sword Dao constitution had three realms, which were minor success, major success, and total success. At present, Yi Zan's sword tyrant body had only reached the minor success realm. Although his cultivation level had increased significantly, he had made very little progress in terms of cultivating his Sword Dao constitution. The same was true for his sword intent. If he improved the level of his sword intent, it would enhance the power of his sword chi. If he could reach the third level of sword intent, then his sword chi would become even more terrifying. Chapter 135. Sword Intent Comprehension. If I meet this monk again in the future, I'll definitely kill him. Yi Zan gazed in the direction the monk had left, and then turned into a streak of light and disappeared. Although he could not catch up to the monk, he wanted to confirm the monk's location. Moreover, their battle had definitely caused a commotion and had definitely attracted the attention of other cultivators. As such, Yi Zan did not want to stick around. The entire Nanzhou region could access the Moon Demon Mystic Realm, so he could not guarantee that stronger enemies would not appear. After Yi Zan left, a number of experts descended. However, they only stayed for a while. After realizing that there was nothing to be gained, they left. Whoosh. A bright streak of light flashed across the sky and landed in a forest that stretched as far as the eye could see. Whoosh. The monk, who had almost been cut in half from the waist down, quickly lay down on a big tree. As the divine element in his body bloomed with vitality, and his injuries gradually recovered. Which faction is this guy from? Why have I never heard of such a young Unity Realm expert? Recalling Yi Zan's strength, the monk felt lingering fear. Although the two were at the same cultivation level, Yi Zan had crushed him. If he did not have the Buddhist beads as a trump card, he might have died. Most importantly, due to the unique characteristic of the divine element, once a cultivator reached the Unity realm, their appearance would basically remain unchanged. This meant that Yizan had reached the Unity realm at around 20 years of age. The monk racked his brains for a long time, but was unable to figure out which superforce in the Nanzhou region had produced such a young monster. No, once the mystic realm closes, I have to investigate this carefully. This guy is too monstrous. I cannot let him live. The monk thought to himself. Then he silently circulated the divine element to continue healing his injuries. If a core formation cultivator had suffered such injuries, they would already be dead. At the same time, Yizan arrived at a huge mountain and entered a cave to begin his secluded cultivation. He thought the same as the monk. He did not want the monk to live. Yizan had roughly determined the monk's location. The monk's injuries were so serious that he would not be able to run far. However, there was still a certain difference between the two. The monk wanted to get rid of Yizan after leaving the mystic realm, while Yizan wanted to kill the monk in the mystic realm. Still, this monk had too many life-saving trump cards. Therefore, Yizan decisively decided to refine the Buddha spirit fruit. The Buddha spirit fruit could not only increase a cultivator's comprehension value, but would also allow the cultivator to experience an epiphany. In fact, the most valuable thing about this fruit was exactly this. If he experienced an epiphany, he would be able to rapidly comprehend martial techniques, cultivation methods, or even his own special constitution and sword intent. In order to get rid of this monk, Yizan decided not to wait for the system's reward this time. He took the Buddha spirit fruit, circulated the spiritual power in his body, and began to slowly refine it. Yizan wanted to rely on the Buddha spirit fruit's state of epiphany to try and advance the level of his sword intent. As Yizan's eyes slowly closed, the originally noisy outside world suddenly turned silent and Yizan entered an extremely mysterious state. The sword chi in his body began to surge violently. Half a day later, tyrannical sword intent suddenly gushed out of his body briefly before disappearing. The third level of sword intent. I've broken through. With this sword intent, I will kill that monk. Yizan stood at the peak of the mountain and said indifferently. As soon as he finished speaking, he slowly extended his index finger, and a phantom sword suddenly condensed at the tip of his finger. When it rippled slightly, it caused the space around him to tremble. With the help of the Buddha spirit fruit, not only did his sword intent advance, but his comprehension value also increased, crossing the 500-point mark. Yizan. Comprehension value. 511. Innate bone value. 596. It's time to deal with that monk. Yizan turned into a streak of light and disappeared. To avoid the monk's detection, Yizan restrained his aura and produced minimal energy fluctuations as he flew. This was possible due to the nihility technique. Following that, Yizan searched for more than half a day in the direction where the monk had left. To his dismay, he did not find anything. It seemed that the monk was quite cautious. After using his trump card, he had even traces of his aura. He was obviously worried that Yizan would chase after him. Yizan's spiritual sense immediately surged out. He wanted to use his spiritual sense to try and detect traces of the monk. However, as time passed, more and more cultivators appeared in the vicinity. Yizan searched for nearly 2 days, but still failed to find any traces of the monk. It had been 3 days since the Moon Demon Mystic Realm opened. During this time, Yizan had already encountered hundreds of battles. The corpses of True Essence Realm cultivators were everywhere, and many Purple Spirit Realm cultivators could be seen fighting in the huge mountain range. There were also some Core Formation Realm experts who also fought shocking battles. The terrifying energy shockwaves from their battles leveled mountains. Of course, the reason for these battles was due to cultivators fighting over the Mystic Realm's heavenly treasures. During this time, Yizan did not encounter a second Unity Realm expert. From the looks of it, Unity Realm cultivators were scarce even in the Nanzhou region. However, it could also be that Unity Realm cultivators could not be bothered to enter the Moon Demon Mystic Realm. The bulk of the cultivators here were True Essence Realm cultivators. They were as numerous as the sand on the sea. Chapter 136. Sense of Security. Other than True Essence Realm cultivators, the most common cultivators present were not Refinement Realm and Chi Transformation Realm cultivators, but rather Purple Spirit Realm cultivators. Most of the Refinement Realm and Chi Transformation Realm cultivators only came to join in the fun. They wanted to see if there were any treasures on the mountains or caves that no one paid attention to. It had to be said that many people were quite lucky. There was a Chi Refinement Realm cultivator who had actually obtained the magic artifact that belonged to a Purple Spirit Realm cultivator in a cave. Obviously, that Purple Spirit Realm cultivator was someone who had died in the Moon Demon Mystic Realm. In the eyes of those low-level cultivators, these things were incredibly valuable. Of course, Yi Zan also stumbled on a lot of these while he was searching for the monk. However, as a Unity Realm expert, it would be unbecoming of him to fight with these small cultivators for treasures that were worthless to him. In any case, while Yi Zan was searching for the monk, he was also searching for heavenly treasures in the mystic realm. Unfortunately, Yi Zan's luck was not as good as before. A full day had passed, yet not only did Yi Zan not find the monk's hiding place, but he also did not find any rare heavenly treasures either. By this time, 4 days had passed since the opening of the Moon Demon Mystic Realm. At the same time, the number of cultivators in the region where Yi Zan was also increasing. At this moment, Yi Zan's gaze fell on a stone wall in the distance, and he narrowed his eyes. The stone wall was covered with countless sword chi marks. Just a single glance was enough to shock countless sword cultivators. This was because these sword chi marks were formed from extremely powerful sword intent. Therefore, this stone wall was also known as the Sword Intent Stone Wall. It was an extremely rare opportunity in the Moon Demon Mystic Realm. Countless sword cultivators had entered the Mystic Realm for the Sword Intent Stone Wall. Instead of searching for heavenly treasures, they would head straight for the Sword Intent Stone Wall, hoping to use the sword intent on the wall to strengthen their comprehension of their sword Dao. However, sword intent was not easy to grasp. As such, their goal was to comprehend the embryonic form of their own sword intent. Countless figures were seated under the stone wall. They were all cultivators from various major forces. Most were sword cultivators, but there were also some who used sabers or axes. They also wanted to try their luck. If they really managed to comprehend their own embryonic form of sword intent, they would switch to the sword without hesitation. Yi Zan was also attracted by the stone wall, but he shook his head after a brief glance. Although the sword chi marks on the stone wall contained sword intent, it was only second-level sword intent. It was not of much use to him. However, just as he was about to leave, a streak of light suddenly flashed by, revealing an extremely pathetic figure. It was obvious that this person was running for her life. In the mystic realm, Yi Zan was already used to this kind of situation, so he did not pay much attention to it. However, when he saw the figure's appearance clearly, he snapped to attention. Huang Ling, Elder Lin Qing's disciple. Huang Ling's face was extremely pale. Streams of blood flowed from the corners of her mouth. Her body erupted with strength as she fled frantically as fast as she could. However, Yi Zan could sense that Huang Ling had already suffered considerable injuries. At this moment, about 300 meters away from Huang Ling, 7 True Essence Realm cultivators held weapons in their hands and chased after her with fierce expressions. BTCH, aren't you going to surrender? As long as you hand over the treasure, we can spare you. BTCH, if you are still stubborn, when my brothers catch you, I will make you beg for death. What kind of treasure did that woman get that she is being chased by so many True Essence Realm cultivators? A cultivator who was comprehending sword intent under the stone wall was immediately distracted by Huang Ling's plight. Other than cultivators who wanted to watch the show, there were even some cultivators under the stone wall who had evil thoughts. A treasure that this many people were after would definitely be valuable. Whoosh! Yi Zan waved his sleeve and suddenly appeared in front of Huang Ling. Seeing this, Huang Ling, who was frantically running away, panicked. I'm done for. Could it be that an even more powerful expert is targeting me? It seems that I won't hold on to this spirit moon fruit. I hope that these guys will let me off after obtaining the treasure. Thinking this, Huang Ling smiled bitterly, and her heart was filled with unwillingness. For the past 4 days, she had been carefully searching for treasures in the mystic realm. This spirit moon fruit could be said to be her biggest harvest. However, when Huang Ling's gaze fell on the cultivator in front of her, she trembled, and her eyes instantly became moist. Elder Yi Zan. Huang Ling's emotions were fluctuating rapidly. Moments ago, she had been in front of the gates of hell, but now she was in front of the gates of heaven. It was almost too much to handle. Who are you? Those True Essence Realm cultivators who were chasing Huang Ling noticed Yi Zan, and immediately became vigilant. Yi Zan had appeared out of nowhere without warning. None of them had sensed his arrival. Yi Zan briefly glanced at them before waving his hand. In an instant, the 7 True Essence Realm cultivators were turned into a cloud of blood mist. When everyone saw this happen, their faces revealed signs of fear. What terrifying power! Could this guy be a top-notch core formation realm expert? Some of the cultivators who had planned to snatch Huang Ling's treasure were so scared that they were sweating profusely. They quickly discarded their evil plans. Fortunately, they had not acted rashly just now. Otherwise, they would have been the ones who had died. What exactly happened? Yi Zan asked. Seeing Yi Zan, the panic and uneasiness in Huang Ling's heart gradually dissipated. She now felt a great sense of security. There could not be a safer place to be than by Yi Zan's side. Then, Huang Ling took a deep breath, calmed her emotions, and then told him everything. Not long ago, Huang Ling had discovered a spirit moon tree in a ruin, and that tree was full of spirit moon fruits. Spirit moon fruits could increase one's cultivation. If a true essence realm cultivator consumed one, they would be able to advance a minor realm. The fruit was even attractive to purple spirit realm cultivators. Although it would not allow them to advance a minor realm, it would still greatly increase their cultivation. Chapter 137, Almsgiver. It is fated with my Buddhist sect. Unfortunately, the effect of the spirit moon fruit decreased as one consumed more. The first time one consumed would provide the largest cultivation boost. The second would provide half of the first, and the third would have basically no effect. Huang Ling was the first to discover the spirit moon tree. After learning of the great effects of the spirit moon fruit, she excitedly plucked a whole bunch of them. Unfortunately, not long after, someone still set foot into the ruin, and discovered traces of Huang Ling's presence there. At that time, Huang Ling had not yet had the time to store away the spirit moon fruits. When those cultivators noticed the fruits, they immediately attacked her. In the beginning, there were only some low-level cultivators, which Huang Ling could handle. However, not long after, 2 purple spirit realm cultivators arrived. Huang Ling was terrified, but also felt somewhat lucky because those 2 purple spirit realm cultivators decided to fight each other for ownership of the tree and its fruits. Seeing the tree slip out of their grasp, the low-level cultivators turned their attention to Huang Ling. Although she could not compete with purple spirit realm experts, Huang Ling was stronger than the other cultivators present. She might have been able to fight off a small group of them, but there was a substantial group there, so she quickly fled. In order to save her own life, Huang Ling decisively chose to throw out a few spirit moon fruits in order to disperse the crowd. Unfortunately, this delaying tactic did not work. After those cultivators obtained the fruits, they regrouped with the main group and chased Huang Ling again. Then, pursued by these true essence realm cultivators, Huang Ling escaped for 40 kilometers. Hearing this, Yi Zan's expression did not change. He had long been used to such situations in the mystic realm. However, he would not sit idly by this time. After all, Huang Ling was a cultivator of his Qingyan sect. Most importantly, Huang Ling was also Elder Lin Qing's disciple. When the Xuanian sect had attacked the Qingyan sect, Elder Lin Qing had done her best to create a way for Yi Zan to survive. Besides, Huang Ling and Shui Min had stayed by his side for some time. Let's go back. Those fruits should have belonged to you. It's time to return them to their original owner, Yi Zan said lightly. Okay. Hearing this, Huang Ling could not help but feel excited and nodded fiercely. Moments later, Yi Zan waved his sleeve and disappeared with Huang Ling. 40 kilometers away, there was a small ruin in the mystic realm. The ruin was hidden within a dense forest. At the center, there was a spirit moon tree that was dozens of meters tall. Countless cultivators could be seen around the tree. In order to fight for the spirit moon fruits that could improve one's cultivation, countless cultivators fought fiercely, and powerful energy shockwaves spread out everywhere. After Huang Ling left, many purple spirit realm cultivators arrived, and the fight between cultivators became even more intense. Many true essence realm cultivators, in order to fight against the purple spirit realm cultivators, chose to band together and gang up on individual purple spirit realm cultivators. The scene here could be said to be extremely chaotic. Some of those low-level cultivators also tried to steal some spirit moon fruits while those experts were fighting each other. Unfortunately, in the face of absolute strength, this was futile. When those purple spirit realm experts saw this, they coldly smiled and casually killed them. Right at this moment, 2 kilometers away from the chaotic battle, a middle-aged man was watching all of this with a cold expression, his eyes flickering with a strange light. This was precisely the leader of the Mad Saber sect, who was at the early stage of the Zuden realm. Ever since he entered the mystic realm, his luck had been poor, and he had not discovered any suitable heavenly treasures. Then, his spiritual sense suddenly detected extremely violent energy fluctuations. He speculated that a cultivator had discovered a heavenly treasure, and then traced these energy fluctuations to search for it. When he found out that the object everyone was fighting for were spirit moon fruits, he was slightly disappointed. Then again, although the spirit moon fruit was useless to him, as the leader of the Mad Saber sect, he had to think for the Mad Saber sect, right? There were at least 40 spirit moon fruits on the fruit tree. If he obtained all of them, then the Mad Saber sect's strength would increase significantly. However, after the previous experience with Yizan, the Mad Saber sect master had become extremely cautious. He did not choose to attack directly, but chose to watch from a distance. He wanted to confirm whether there would be other strong experts coming to snatch them. He would only attack when he was sure that it was absolutely safe. At that time, he would take all of the spirit moon fruits and then leave as quickly as he could. After observing for the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, the leader of the Mad Saber sect became basically certain that no other core formation realm cultivators would come over. The leader of the Mad Saber sect then made his move and appeared on the battlefield. Moments later, his surging core formation realm spiritual pressure swept out. These spirit moon fruits are fated with me. You guys can get lost now. Even if these true essence and purple spirit realm cultivators joined forces, they would be no match for the leader of the Mad Saber sect. What? It's actually a core formation realm expert. Damn it, we're doomed this time. Seeing this, everyone immediately stopped, and their facial expressions became extremely ugly. They were very puzzled. Although the spirit moon fruit was rare, it was useless to a core formation realm expert. Why had one suddenly decided to make an appearance here? Just as he was about to take the spirit moon tree away, his expression suddenly changed drastically. He suddenly sensed an extremely terrifying aura surging out. Almsgiver, this spirit moon tree is fated with our Buddhist sect. As soon as he finished speaking, a monk dressed in kasaya appeared. He held a bowl in his left hand while his right hand slowly twirled some Buddhist beads around. The monk was as fast as lightning. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of the leader of the Mad Saber sect. Chapter 138. This item is fated with my Qingyan sect. Seeing this, the leader of the Mad Saber sect panicked. This guy was so fast. How strong was this guy? Had he reached the peak of the core formation realm, or perhaps even the unity realm? The leader of the Mad Saber sect had experienced Yizan's strength before, so he was very clear about the strength of a peak core formation realm cultivator. This monk who appeared out of nowhere was terrifyingly fast. Moreover, when his gaze fell on the monk, he could not help but feel a touch of fear in his heart. It seemed that the monk's strength was not inferior to Yizan's. Immediately, the leader of the Mad Saber sect's hand that was about to grab the fruits awkwardly stopped in their tracks. Then, he decisively chose to withdraw it and then revealed a faint smile. Master's words make sense. These spiritual fruits are indeed fated with Buddhism. There was nothing he could do. This monk's strength seemed unfathomable. It was very likely that he could easily crush him to death. Who would dare to provoke him? When the people around saw this, they turned pale with fright. Just what kind of existence was this monk? He could actually make a top-notch core formation realm expert submit with just words. They naturally knew that the leader of the Mad Saber sect's smile was extremely forced, and his eyes were filled with fear. It was obvious that this monk's cultivation far surpassed his, or else he would not have shown such an expression. They had not expected that these spiritual fruits would attract the attention of so many big shots. It was one thing for a top-tier core formation realm expert to descend, but why was there an even stronger one now? Could it be that there was something special about these spirit moon fruits? Could it be that they also had some effect on top-tier core formation realm experts? Good, good, good. Almsgiver is indeed an intelligent person. Seeing this, the monk revealed a satisfied smile. Although the spirit moon tree was of no use to him, his thoughts were the same as the leader of the Mad Saber sect. He could bring it back for his disciples. Soon after, the monk extended his hand with a smile and was about to take the spirit moon fruit tree away. At this moment, an ice-cold voice suddenly rang out. Hee, stinky monk, you said that the tree is fated with your Buddhist sect. Is everything fated with your Buddhist sect? Could it be that all monks are as shameless as you? This voice was like thunder, resounding across the entire sky. Everyone looked up, but they did not see anyone appear. Still, they were immensely frightened. A cultivator who could achieve such a feat would possess extremely terrifying strength. Moreover, that voice did not hide its killing intent. When the leader of the Mad Saber sect heard the voice, his heart immediately skipped a beat. He was too familiar with this voice. Immediately after, he hurriedly raised his head and saw two figures suddenly appear in the air. Whoosh! An extremely handsome young man and a slightly pale-faced woman revealed themselves. Yizan. It was indeed this guy. His body started instinctively trembling. He would never forget this voice. It had long been carved into the depths of his soul. However, Yi Zan had already reached the Unity realm. Why would he be interested in the Spirit Moon Tree? Then remembered that Yi Zan was an elder of the Qingyan sect. The Spirit Moon Tree could be given to the cultivators of the Qingyan sect. However, the monk was not weak either. A great battle was likely to take place. Thinking this, his eyes narrowed. He knew Yi Zan's character very well. If Yi Zan decided to make a move, it would definitely be earth-shattering. He started thinking about how to escape. The monk also heard Yi Zan's voice. Not only did he not stop what he was doing, he even hastened his pace to grab the Spirit Moon Tree. As the Spirit Moon Tree left the soil, it shrank rapidly and turned into a resplendent silver root, sinking into the bowl in the monk's hand. Almsgiver, why did you insult a Buddhist? After the monk grabbed the Spirit Moon Tree, he turned around leisurely and his gaze fell on Yi Zan. A hint of killing intent flashed in his eyes. Yi Zan had called him a stinky monk, which undoubtedly made him very dissatisfied. Had it been any other ordinary cultivator, he would have sent him to meet Buddha with one palm. However, his spiritual sense failed to probe the cultivation level of the young man. Hand over the Spirit Moon Tree and I'll spare your life. Yi Zan looked at the monk indifferently. Unfortunately, this monk was not one he was looking for. However, looking at the way they did things, they might be from the same Buddhist faction. Perhaps they were fellow disciples. The Spirit Moon Tree is fated with our Buddhist sect. It already belongs to our Buddhist sect. I'm afraid it's inappropriate for you to act so tyrannically, almsgiver. The monk's gaze fell on Yi Zan, and his gaze gradually turned cold. His uncertainty regarding Yi Zan's strength was the only thing keeping him from attacking. Hee, another one talking about fate with Buddhism. You stinking monks are all the same. Yi Zan did not even bother to waste his breath. He then waved his sleeve and emitted a gentle power that carried Huang Ling steadily to the ground. This monk had also reached the Unity realm. If a fight broke out between them, the energy shockwaves would not be something that Huang Ling could withstand. Huang Ling naturally knew Yi Zan's intentions. As soon as she landed on the ground, she immediately retreated. Whoosh! Yi Zan reached out and grabbed his god-slaying sword, which started to emit terrifying blood-red sword chi patterns. It looks like Almsgiver is planning to snatch it by force. Seeing this scene, the monk's expression immediately became gloomy. What kind of joke was this? The Spirit Moon Tree had fallen into his hands. How could he hand it over? Since this guy was reckless and wanted to make things difficult for him, he would just send him to meet Buddha with a slap. This guy looked so young. Even if he was powerful, it was impossible for him to have reached the Unity realm. To the best of his knowledge, no genius cultivator in the Nanzhou region had ever reached the Unity realm at such a young age. This Spirit Moon Tree is fated with my Qingyan sect. A cold smile hung on the corners of Yi Zan's mouth as he imitated his opponent's tone. Chapter 139. Void Power. When the monk heard this, his eyes instantly turned cold, and an extreme killing intent flashed across his pupils. He disliked the fact that Yi Zan had called him a stinky monk, and now this guy was even making mockery of him. He would send this arrogant guy to meet Buddha today. Almsgiver, you are too arrogant. This penniless monk can only hand you over to Buddha to be enlightened. The monk's body suddenly turned golden, and then his figure suddenly disappeared and appeared in front of Yi Zan. A fist that was suffused with terrifying Buddhist light was hurled toward Yi Zan. Seeing this, Yi Zan did not panic at all. The god-slaying sword in his hand emitted tyrannical blood-colored sword chi, easily blocking the monk's attack. The same move. These two must be from the same Buddhist faction. Yi Zan's eyes immediately narrowed. Seeing his attack blocked, the monk could not help but show a hint of surprise. However, what puzzled him the most was that the sword chi that Yi Zan released not only blocked his attack, but cancelled it out perfectly. This young guy had actually reached the Unity realm. It was no wonder he could not sense the other party's cultivation. It seemed that he was also using a secret technique to conceal his aura. However, since he has chosen to be my enemy, then he has to die. Boom, boom, boom. Although the monk was surprised, his fist did not stop moving. Bright Buddhist light transformed into fist shadows that filled the sky that tried to strike Yi Zan. Although the monk's attacks were destructive, they were easily neutralized by Yi Zan. Run. Seeing this scene, everyone turned pale with fright. They frantically ran in all directions. That being said, Yi Zan's control of his own power had reached an unthinkable level, which greatly reduced the danger caused by the energy fluctuations from the battle. However, seeing the fight itself was terrifying enough to make them flee. The leader of the Mad Saber sect also chose to leave without hesitation. He first looked in the direction of Huang Ling, then flew over. Seeing this, Huang Ling was confused. She knew this person. When she was in Zhongqing City, the leader of the Mad Saber sect had sided with the Chen family, but had quickly retreated once Yi Zan revealed his power. However, this guy was still a core formation realm expert. She would not be able to resist him at all. Don't be afraid, young lady. I mean no harm. The leader of the Mad Saber sect hurriedly revealed a kind smile, afraid that he would scare Huang Ling. He had come here to protect Huang Ling from being caught up in the aftermath of the battle. Of course, he also wanted to use this opportunity to express his goodwill to Yi Zan. Although he did not know if Yi Zan could defeat the monk, he still chose to stand on Yi Zan's side after seeing that he seemed to be able to deal with the monk's attacks with ease. Whoosh! The blood-colored sword Qi soared into the sky, filled with incomparably tyrannical power. Like a bloody sun hanging high in the sky, it turned into a torrent and engulfed the monk. Ah! A painful cry was suddenly heard. Only when the blood-colored sword Qi dissipated did everyone realize that Yi Zan had already chopped off one of the monk's arms. Fresh blood gushed out from the severed arm. Although the monk's face was filled with pain, he reacted quickly and caught his severed arm, pressing it into his shoulder. The divine element blossomed with brilliant vitality, reattaching the severed arm at a speed that was visible to the naked eye. How is this possible? When everyone saw this scene, they were shocked. His arm had been chopped off, but now it was whole again. Just how terrifyingly strong was this monk? From what they knew, even if a cultivator had reached the core formation realm, they would not be able to regrow a severed arm within such a short period of time. Could it be that this monk's strength had surpassed the core formation realm? When they thought of this, everyone took a deep breath. Just what kind of terrifying existences were these two? When the leader of the Mad Saber sect saw this scene, his pupils shrunk. This monk was indeed a Unity Realm expert. However, the monk's arm had still been cut off by Yi Zan. That meant that Yi Zan was stronger, right? This guy was growing stronger a little too quickly. Fortunately, he had made the right bet. The monk's gaze fell on Yi Zan, and his eyes were filled with fear. He had never thought that this young man possessed such terrifying strength. If he had not dodged in time, and relied on the bull's defensive power, he might have been cut in half by Yi Zan. Whoosh! Yi Zan's figure suddenly disappeared and, moments later, he reappeared above the monk. This fat monk was even more powerful than the other monk, and the bull he held was also an artifact with extremely strong defensive power. Moments later, all of the power in his dantian, the tyrannical sword Qi of the Sword Overlord body, and his third-level sword intent, were infused into the god-slaying sword, which then slashed toward the monk. The monk's expression immediately changed. The bowl in his hand blossomed with bright golden light, which enveloped him within it. Clang! The two terrifying energies collided with each other. It was as though a great bell had been struck, and the violent energy shockwaves it formed spread out in all directions. Even though they were more than 10 kilometers away, there were still quite a number of low-level cultivators who were severely injured by the energy shockwaves. At this moment, cracks suddenly appeared on the bowl that was originally suffused with resplendent golden light. Then, the bowl immediately shattered. How is this possible? When the monk saw this, he was extremely frightened. The bull's defensive power had failed to withstand the opponent's sword strike. However, he also felt somewhat lucky. At the very least, the bull was able to block a fatal blow for him. However, things were not over yet. The bull also was a spatial storage artifact. When it shattered, spatial cracks started appearing, which emitted terrifying void power. Yi Zan and the monk retreated frantically at the same time. The void power was emitting an extremely powerful suction force. Even Unity Realm experts would not be able to resist this power. Chapter 140. World-Shaking Sword Slash. After a cultivator reached the Unity Realm, even if their body was cut in half, it could still be reconnected within a short period of time. However, void power would devour one's body completely, making it impossible to recover. As the two retreated frantically, the spatial cracks pulsed with powerful suction force. Even someone as powerful as Yi Zan stopped for a moment. Even though they were more than 10 kilometers apart, everyone felt an extremely terrifying suction force pulling them toward the spatial cracks. Everyone's faces were filled with fear. Just how terrifying were these two's abilities? They could even shatter space. Fortunately, spatial cracks did not last long. After a brief moment, the spatial cracks repaired themselves. However, because of the spatial cracks, the broken pieces of the bowl had been sucked inside. Not a single piece was left. Seeing this, Yi Zan frowned. The bowl was a spatial storage artifact, and all of the monk's heavenly treasures were probably stored inside. Was everything gone now? Did this mean that the spirit moon tree was gone too? Thinking this, a hint of killing intent flashed across Yi Zan's eyes. Whoosh! Yi Zan's figure suddenly disappeared, and then he reappeared in front of the frantically escaping monk. Another heaven-shaking sword strike descended. The monk was no longer protected by the bowl. In terms of defensive power, this bowl was even more terrifying than the Buddhist beads in that other monk's possession. It was precisely because of this that Yi Zan had been unable to cut the monk in half with his first strike. However, this time, he would not escape. Whoosh! The sharp sword chi landed on the monk's body, cutting it in half at the waist. Moreover, the tyrannical sword chi rampaged wildly in the monk's body that had been split into two, restraining the recovery speed of the divine element. I can't accept this. In the end, the monk looked at Yi Zan unwillingly, and then his entire body was completely devoured by the tyrannical sword chi. After doing all this, Yi Zan's gaze was indifferent as he slowly descended from the sky. Such a destructive battle naturally alarmed countless cultivators. Although they did not know who was fighting, they could sense the energy fluctuations, and knew that the person who attacked just now was extremely terrifying. Even the earth had trembled. Could it be a Supreme Unity Realm expert? Many peak core formation realm experts gazed in the direction of the battle, their eyes filled with shock and bewilderment. They were from the super factions of the Nanzhou region, so they naturally knew how terrifying a Unity Realm expert was. However, they were even more clear in their hearts that once a cultivator reached the Unity Realm, they would be almost immortal. Unless the enemy had earth-shaking power, they would not be able to completely kill a Unity Realm expert. However, Yi Zan's third-level sword intent, coupled with the tyrannical sword chi, was enough to kill the monk faster than the divine element could heal the latter. Suddenly, about 500 kilometers away from the battlefield, a monk whose right hand was slowly turning some Buddhist beads, looked in the direction of the battle and frowned. These energy fluctuations, it's actually a Unity Realm expert. I wonder what the outcome will be. This monk was the person who had tried to snatch the Buddha spirit fruit from Yi Zan earlier. In order to prevent Yi Zan from chasing after him, even though he was heavily injured, he kept moving while using a secret technique to erase any traces. In the end, the monk discovered a hidden place and stopped there to slowly heal his injuries. After his injuries had been healed, he quickly ran toward the depths of the mystic realm. The Moon Demon mystic realm was extremely vast. As long as he ran in the opposite direction, he would never encounter Yi Zan. Moreover, he had already come up with a plan. As soon as the mystic realm was closed, he would immediately investigate Yi Zan's background and kill him at all costs. I wonder if the Buddha spirit fruit is still in his possession. The monk could not help but think to himself. Even though he was in a sorry state, he was still greedy for Yi Zan's Buddha spirit fruit. To a cultivator, the chance to experience an epiphany was extremely rare. Thinking this, he prayed inwardly. He hoped that Yi Zan would be reluctant to use the Buddha spirit fruit because of its rarity. This way, after he killed Yi Zan in the outside world, he would be able to obtain the Buddha spirit fruit for himself. However, he also knew that the probability of this happening was very slim. Suddenly, the monk's gaze turned in the direction of the battle. The energy fluctuations were weakening. It seemed that the battle had ended. Even though they were hundreds of miles apart, the monk still sensed incomparably tyrannical sword chi. This power was so familiar. Could it be him? Could it be that another Unity Realm expert had discovered that Yi Zan had the Buddha spirit fruit, and the two of them had started fighting? Other than that guy, only those guys from the Myriad Swords sect possessed such terrifying sword chi. Could it be that it was one of them? The monk kept imagining all sorts of situations in his mind. However, he never expected that the defeated cultivator to be a Buddhist cultivator like him. Cultivator to be a Buddhist cultivator like him.